we can get, thank you, Shags, until we can get comments and kudos and so on. And you can always write wonderful things in the chat after each teller if you like. So I'm Sarah Armstrong, and I'm the chair of the Storytelling Association of California, and I am your MC this evening. Our wonderful host, Ed Lewis, had hip surgery on Monday, and they're trying to keep him down from jumping around and dancing. So he's a happy camper. He's doing well and has been seeing physical therapists, and he actually may show up. We'll see. Genre stories, as you know, are stories that are on a theme or on a topic, on a genre. And today is fairy tales. So we're really looking forward to the lineup that we have today. It's a wonderful group of women, happens to be all women today. And I'm just thrilled to be here and be your MC. So our first storyteller is Ida Johnson, who is representing Contra Costa Tale Spinners. And Ida is a retired teacher and school librarian, a graduate of Stagebridge's EPIC program, and she loved telling tales in school programs, Stagebridge events, and area story swaps. She feels that a good story can be enjoyed by anyone from 7 to 77. So Ida, please tell us a story.
I'd like to share a story that is said to come from the Kalahari Desert region in Southern Africa. I first learned this from a wonderful Stagebridge class with Sarah Armstrong. The Star Woman. Once, many years ago, near the dry Kalahari, there was a farmer who loved nothing more than his cattle. And he took such great care of them, and he enjoyed the taste of their sweet, sweet, warm milk. And so, as each day passed, at the end of the day, he would keep them safe in a corral shut with a thorn gate. And during the day, he would take them to pastures with the best grass that could be found in that arid region. And so, one day, when he went to milk his cows that morning, their udders were flat. They weren't full. I'll have to take them to a better field, he told himself. And so he did. And the next morning, their udders were flat as if they had already been milked. Something is happening, he thought. And so the third night, he hid near the cattle during that night, and he was getting kind of sleepy when suddenly he heard the sound of women's laughter coming from the sky. And there, out of the moonlight, he saw a rope ladder coming down, and on it were 12 beautiful star maidens that shone with the sparkle of the sky. And as they set foot on earth, they began milking the cattle with a calabash that each of them had brought with them. And this went on until dawn was just breaking, and the women began going up that ladder. He ran forward and he grabbed the very last one as she was about to go up that rope ladder. Stop, stay and marry me and share my life. She had pulled away, but when she heard this, her foot touched the earth. I will stay. I will marry you and share your life, but first, you must promise me. You must promise me that, well, you see, I have a basket that I bring with me everywhere. And in this basket are things that are very precious to me. You must promise me that you will never, ever open it without my permission. seems okay to me. Yes. But if that basket is ever opened by you without my permission, I must leave. I promise. I promise, he said. And they were married. They were married, and their union was a happy one. It seemed that everything she did seemed blessed. Everything she touched seemed to prosper. And so it went. They would be out working in the fields, and when she came in, she might glance at that basket over in the corner, and she would smile. But when he came in and looked at that basket, what was in that thing? It was pretty tightly woven, and so he couldn't see inside. And oh, the day after day, he wondered, and his curiosity just wouldn't let him seem to rest. But there it was. And so the days passed, and the years went by, and one day, he had come in from the fields a bit early to look for something. And when he came in, wait a minute, there's a basket. And he picked it up, and well, he shook it, and the lid wasn't going to just fall off. He pulled it off, and he looked inside, and he laughed, but then he heard her footsteps, and quickly he put the basket back, and then she walked in the door. She walked in, and she just laughed. What a beautiful day it is outside. Oh, and she thought of her basket, and she thought of all the things that were in that basket that meant so much to her. She thought of the sparkle of moonbeams in that basket. She thought of the sound of her star sister's laughter that was tucked inside. She felt the rush of the wind against her cheek. That wind was there, and she could almost taste the taste of warm milk, fresh from midnight milking. The taste was there. And in that basket, she knew he had tucked away the cry of awe and wonder that her husband made when he saw the brand new baby calf being born. All those things in that basket that were so important to her, so important to them. And she looked at the basket, and she knew what had happened. You looked in the basket, didn't you? Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know what all the fuss was about. Oh, come on. I looked inside, and it was empty. What was the big deal? You looked inside the basket? You looked inside into you? It was empty. You looked there and saw all the things that were so important to me, so important to us. You looked inside and saw nothing. Nothing? I don't know what the big deal is about. You looked inside and saw the things that saw none of the things that were important to me, important to my soul, important to us. And now, as I said, as I promised, I must go. I must go not because that basket was opened, but because you looked into the deepest, most precious part of me, into my soul, and saw absolutely nothing at all. And she turned and gathered her things and picked up her basket. And that night, as she walked out the door and down the road, she walked into the African sunset of orange and red and was never, ever seen on earth ever again.
Wow, Ida, thank you so much. It's such a rich story, and the whole thing about sight and what we can see and if we really look and how can we look. It's just a fabulous story and beautiful telling. Thank you so very much.
By Lawrence Vander Post or recorded by him. I'll put the title in the chat.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you. Well, our next storyteller is Angela James, and she's representing the Sacramento Story Guild. Angela is a storyteller and poet, steeped in the oral tradition of the Caribbean. Her eclectic fusion of stories, music, and movement is designed to entertain and appeal to all audiences. Angela performs regularly all over Northern California at public and private events. She organizes storytelling events in the Sacramento area and has received several grants to promote storytelling and poetry in the schools. Angela, please tell us a story.
Well, I'll most certainly tell a story. I am not sure if this is going to classify as a fairy tale because I don't believe in those little people flying around. But I heard this a long time ago, and it is said that a long time ago, not in my time, not in your time, not in anybody's time as far as I know, there was this little girl called Melindy. Oh, she just loved to dance and sing everywhere she went, everything she did. She was always dancing and singing. If she was going to school, oh, I'm Melindy going to school. I'm Melindy going to school. Well, this one day, of course, back in those days, kids had chores, and she was sent to milk the cow. She went off, she milked the cow, and on the way home, of course, she has a pail of milk. And what is she doing? She is singing and she is dancing with this pail of milk. Oh, I'm Melindy, going home, milk the cow. I'm Melindy, going home, milk the cow. Well, you know, she's got so much into the dancing and singing that she's not paying attention. She tripped on something on the road, spilled the milk over herself, on her nice dress. She spilled the milk all in the road, and she's like, what should she do? She sat down on a little rock by the blade, and she's just crying. You know, she was only 9 years old, so she was excused. But something caught her eye. And as she looked coming along the lane, there was this little thing that looked like an animal. But she was a good reader and she had picture books. And it looked like a little monkey to her. So he comes up closer and she stops crying long enough. And she's like, hey there, little monkey. And what are you doing in these parts? The monkey don't answer because, you know, he is not a monkey. I mean, it's like calling him a monkey. That's an insult. Mm-hmm. So she said, hey there. She's being polite. How are you doing? You're from around here? And then she looked a little bit closer and she sees the long tail. And then she recognizes something else. He's got a little pitchfork. And she's like, oh, because from her Sunday school, She had heard all about the devil and everything. And she's like, oh, you're a little devil. Oh, and she started crying. Oh, oh, oh. She started saying her prayer. She's doing everything. This is the devil. Oh, and the devil says, hi, I'm little devil. But that's okay. Stop crying. Stop crying. I can help you out here. And she's like, uh-huh. She said, can you get all that milk back in the pail? And he said, yeah, I can do that. He says, I'm new to this business and I can do anything you want. He says, this is the first time I'm out practicing devilment on my own. So I'm really impressive. And okay, this 9-year-old, she can negotiate. She says, are you going to get my dress back all nice and clean as well? And he's like, I can do that. He says, but you have to give me something in return. She's like, what's that? He says, I am going to come back and take your soul. And she's like, I don't want you to take my soul. I want to live a really long time. And the little devil says, well, okay, I won't take it right away. I'll come back in a while. And she says, when? And the devil says, oh, you pick a number. You pick the time. And no concept. She's 9 years old. No concept of stuff like that. She says, when I'm 29 years old. And the devil says, that's the deal. That little devil, he did his thing. And the next thing you know, her pail was full of milk. And after that, there was a dress all nice and clean, looking almost brand new. And the little devil, I mean, it was a cute little thing. And he said, you want to dance? We can celebrate. And she and that little devil, and he's waving his pitchfork, and they're dancing, and they're doing the jig, and then they did a hokey pokey, and that they did everything, you know. And then the little devil takes off, and he says, I am going to come back here when you're 29. She says, bye. Gets a pail of milk. She goes home. She doesn't get in any trouble, doesn't get a whipping. She has a dinner and everything else. Well, story doesn't end there. It is her 29th birthday. She has forgotten all about this devil. She's gotten married. She's got a couple of kids. And that particular day, she is organizing a birthday party for herself. Yeah, I mean, if nobody's going to do it for you, you might as well have fun, okay? She's organizing a birthday party for herself, and then just out of thin air, poof, this little devil appears. Now, devil ears and human ears are not the same because he still looked like a little devil. He ain't grown one bit. He's got that little fuzzy hair, still looking like a monkey, and he's got that pitchfork that ain't no bigger. She said, hey there, little devil, it's been a long minute since I saw you. He's trying to be a man. He says, oh, I'm here to get your soul. I'm here to get your soul. She's like, oh, that right? Why don't you wait a minute here? Just a minute. Yeah, I had forgotten. It's my birthday today, and I did make a deal. It is 29. I am 29. We did agree on that. She says, wait right here a minute, little devil. She said, but by the way, you sure looking good, but you ain't brought a whole lot. And she goes into the house. She goes into the house and she starts rooting under the bed, and she starts pulling out all these old shoes and whatnot. And then she found the exact one that she wanted. And she took that shoe. It was all beat up, mashed up, broken down. And then she got her arms and she started pulling, and she tore that sole off. And then with that sole, she stuck it behind her back and she goes out, hey there, little devil, here it is just for you. You can have my soul. and she handed him that soul. The little devil looked at it. He says, I thought it'd be bigger. She's like, well, it's almost as big as you, and you ain't brought a whole lot, so this is my soul. And the devil says, okay. And he took that soul and he went off. Well, Melindy, she went ahead and planned her birthday party. She had a good time. She ended up having more kids. She just had a really, really good time. Lived long, long, long. Because that devil took that soul and he took off. And now I am not going to tell you what happened when he took that soul to his master. That's a different story. You don't want to hear what happened there. I mean, it was bad. When that little devil took that soul. But Melindy, she lived a full life. She lived a lovely life and everything, because you know, once the devil takes your soul once, he can never get it again. So he got his soul, and the way this turned out to be a fairy tale is because it ended. She and her family, they all lived happily ever after. Dorian, wire Ben.
Oh, Angela, thank you so much. What a clever woman. Melindy dancing with the devil in more ways than one. That was just awesome. Thank you so, so much. Okay, our next storyteller is Claudia Tonge. I hope I'm saying that right.
Tanja.
Tanja, excuse me. Claudia Tonja. She's representing Motherlode Storyteller Guild. She says we'll never be too old for fairy tales. And stories bring color, humor, romance, and excitement to our grown-up lives. More, please. And yes, please, Claudia, tell us a story.
Thank you so much. This is a story that I have loved for many, many years. I found it, at the Capitola Public Library, 1975. It's from an collection of Irish tales by Patrick Kennedy. And it's about a girl who takes her job very, very seriously, as you will see. There was once a widow that had 3 daughters. And one day the oldest one came to her and said, "Mother, bake me my cake, fill me my cup till I'm gone to seek my fortune." And the mother prepared the food, and she said to the girl, "Now, which will you have? Half of this with my blessing, or all of it with my curse?" "I care nothing for your curse or your blessing," said the girl. "The whole of it's little enough for me." Off the girl went with all of the food and none of her mother's blessing, if not her curse. She walked all that day till midday. She came to a crossroads and she sat down to eat her meal. And while she was eating it, a poor, raggedy old woman came up to her and asked for just a bite. "Devil a bit you'll get from me," said the girl. "As you can see, it's all mine and it's not enough for me. Enough with you, you old beggar." And the woman went away looking very sorrowful. Now the girl went on, and she walked until evening was falling, night was falling, and she came to a fine big house, and she knocked on the door. And she asked the woman of the house, who answered, if there might be a job around there for a strong, healthy girl. "Why, yes." The woman said yes. In fact, she offered her a spadeful of gold and a shovelful of silver if only she would sit up the night and watch over the corpse of her son that was wakened in the next room. But the girl agreed to these terms, and she was led into the room where the dead man was laid out on a table with a candle at his head, at his feet. And she sat down by the fire, trying not to look over at that dead body. She felt a bit uneasy being alone in the room with him. The house grew quiet. Everyone went to sleep, went to bed. And she sat there sort of feeling drowsy. She had walked a long way that day, and she was starting to drowse, and the clock struck midnight. All at once, the corpse rose up in his shroud, came over to her, looked down at her, and said, "All alone, fair maid." The girl was so frightened. She couldn't move her lips. She could not answer him. He asked again, "All alone, fair maid?" And she said, the third time he asked, and she did not answer. He tapped her on the shoulder, and she became a gray flag stone right there on the hearth. Time went by, and now the second daughter comes to her mother. "Mother, bake me my cake, kill me my cock till I'm gone to seek my fortune." Now this girl cared not for her mother's blessing any more than her older sister had. And when she came to the crossroads, she didn't share her meal with the poor beggar woman. When she came to the fine big house, she agreed to watch the corpse for a spadeful of gold and a shovelful of silver. And you know, all the same things happened. The corpse rose up at midnight, asked her 3 times if she was all alone. 3 times she didn't answer, and she became a great black stone alongside her sister. Well, more time passed. The third girl comes to her mother and says, "Mother, bake me my cake, kill me my cock till I'm gone to seek my sisters. And if I should find my fortune on the way, so much the better." Well, this was done. Now, the girl was very careful to take her mother's blessing with her. And when she came to the crossroads, she shared her meal with the poor, raggedy beggar woman who went away smiling, promised that they might meet again. At the fine big house, the girl agreed to watch over the corpse of the woman's son. When she looked over at him laid out on the bier, all old and white and wrapped in his shroud, she sighed with sadness that such a fine-looking man should be dead. So she sat up by the fire, a bowl of nuts and some apples the woman had given her, and the dog and the cat of the house keeping her company. And every once in a while, well, quite often actually, she looked over at that dead man. Wasn't it a pity that the loveliest man she'd ever seen in her life was a dead one? Well, the clock struck midnight. The corpse rose up with his shroud in his shroud, leaned over her, looked down at her with great, dark, burning eyes, and said, "All alone, fair maid?" She looked up at him. She said, "All alone, I'm not. I've little dog Douse and Pussy, my cat. I've apples to eat and nuts to crack, and all alone I'm not." "Oh," said the corpse, "now you're a girl from spirit, and I would love to stay and get to know you better, but I must be leaving you." "Well, if you're going, then I'm going too," said the girl, "for I've been engaged to mind you." "Oh, I'm taking a journey that you could not take with me," he said. I have to go into the fairy hills. I have to cross the quaking bog. I have to run through a burning forest and into the dark cavern of horror and up a glass mountain so tall you can't see the top of it, and down from that into the Dead Sea a mile or below. And no mortal girl could follow me there. "Well, I'll have to try," said the girl. "Your mother hired me to watch over you." Well, he argued with her, and she was firm in her resolve. So he just, without another word, turned and jumped out the window head first and ran off into the night. And the girl jumped after and ran as fast as she could go to catch him up. When they came to the green hills, and the corpse said, "Open, open, green hills, and let the light of the green hills through." "I," said the girl, "and the fair maid too." And the green hills opened, and the corpse passed in with the girl close behind. They came to the quaking bog, and the corpse ran lightly over bits of moss and sod as if he had no weight at all. And when the girl went to follow, her foot sank into the muck and ooze, and she could not go any farther. Suddenly, there appeared that old woman from the crossroads, only now she was much nicer dressed. She tapped the girl's shoes with her wand, and the soles on them grew out on all sides, so that the girl was able to skate over the top of that quicksand as she pursued the corpse. She got to the other side of that quaking bog just in time to see him running into the burning forest. And when she tried to follow, oh, the heat of the flames threw her back, and she could not go into the fire without being turned to a cinder. But there was that old woman again, and now she threw a damp cloak over the girl, and she was able to run through the fire. Not a hair on her head was singed. After that, she came out, and just in time to see him run into the dark hole, the dark opening of a cavern of a cave. It was the cavern of horror. And as she got closer, she heard, oh, the most terrible shrieks and yells and cries, sounds that would freeze your blood and turn your limbs to stone. But there was the old woman from the crossroads right there with some wax to put in the girl's ears, so she was able to go into that dark cavern. And though she saw terrible things, slimy monsters and eerie blue lights, she was able to keep her head down and her eyes forward, and she followed the glimmer of the white shroud as they wound their way through dark passages. When she came out the other side, day was just breaking. She could see the sun rising behind a glass mountain, a mountain so tall that the top of it was lost in the clouds. And there was the corpse running up the side of it like a fly on a window pane. And the girl, trying to follow, found no handhold, no ledge for her feet. The side of the mountain was slick and cold as ice. And she looked around, and there she was, the old woman from the crossroads, her good fairy. And now she tapped the girl's shoes with her wand. The soles became so sticky that she could climb up the glass mountain after the corpse. When she finally got to the top of the mountain, there he was, waiting for her. And he turned to her and said, oh, you have done what no one else has even tried to do. Now go home to my mother, claim your fee, for you have earned it. I really, though I must say goodbye to you now, I must bid you farewell, because now I must fall off the top of this mountain down to the Dead Sea, a mile or more below us. And if you follow me, you will die. Farewell, fair maid. And he toppled off the top of the mountain. Down, down, down he fell, down to the Dead Sea, a mile or more below. But he did not go alone. The girl had jumped after him, and down, down, down she fell. And about halfway down the mountain, she became stupefied. She did not feel herself strike the water. She did not feel her body sinking down into the cold, cold wave. The next thing she knew, she was lying in a green field. It was lovely, and the air was fresh and sweet, and high above her head she could see the bottom of the waves of the ocean like a strange blue sky. And it seemed she was resting her head in someone's lap, and she had a sense that someone was looking down at her, but she was so tired she could not keep her eyes open, and she slept. The next time she woke up, she was in bed. The first thing she saw was the face of the woman that had hired her to look after her son, the body of her son. And she was smiling down at her, and tears were running down her cheeks. And when she looked on the other side of the bed, there was the son, only he wasn't dead, he was alive. And then, between laughter and tears, they told her the story of the wicked fairy who'd put a spell on him because he would not love her, that he must lie in a state between life and death until someone would do all the things the girl had done for him. And now the spell was broken and he was free, and she might ask any boon of them that they could grant. Well, the first thing she asked was that her sisters be returned to their human forms, and this was done. They were sent home to their mother with their spades full of gold and their shovels full of silver. The girl now, she stayed with the young man and his mother, and she married him. And I am quite certain that she continued to mind him as well as he minded her for the rest of their lives. That's called The Corpse Watchers.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
Wow.
I love
Claudia.
magic. I love the fairy magic in that because it's so mundane. I mean, honestly, wax her ears, sticky shoes, wet cloak. She does it all on her own, pretty much. So, what a gal.
Whatever works. No, that was fabulous, just fabulous. And such an adventure, and that sense of duty that I promised that I would follow him.
I think there was a bit of lust involved too.
I suspect there was something there too, and it was right, and they got to get together. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for that opportunity. I love it.
Of course, of course. Ah, what a night! What a night! And I just wanted to say that y'all had free tickets because it doesn't cost anything to come and join us for the stories. However, there is a donation possibility, and anything that's donated is split up among the tellers. So I think Shags is going to put in a link in a bit, and should you feel so inclined, that would be lovely. Well, our next storyteller is Adrienne Lowry, representing the Inland Valley Storytellers. Adrienne is a writer, editor, singer, and college professor who has been telling stories ever since she got her first classroom of students. She loves telling stories of interesting women and alternate versions of traditional stories, two things that tonight's story combine. She will be telling the Celtic version of the Cinderella tale titled Fair, Brown, and Trembling, and this time it's all about the clothes. Adrienne, please tell us your story.
Thank you. Well, there was a king in Ireland who had 3 daughters. Their names were Fair, Brown, and Trembling. And you see, Fair and Brown had beautiful clothes, and they would go to church every Sunday. But they would leave Trembling at home to cook, do the work at home. But actually, it was because she was the prettiest of the 3 of them, and they all lived in fear that she might get married before they do, and they were older than her. Well, this went on for 7 years until finally the son of the king of Amania fell in love with the oldest daughter. And one Sunday, Fair and Brown, dressed in their finest, went off to church, leaving Trembling there to, cook the dinner for when they got home. And the hen wife came to her, sort of the Celtic version of the fairy godmother, and said, "Would you be going to church this morning?" "Oh, I would," she said, "but I have nothing but these rags to wear." "I can take care of that." And she clipped a little something off of Trembling's old clothes and went into her cloak of darkness and came out with this beautiful white silk dress with beautiful, beautiful green shoes. And as Trembling got dressed in these things, the hen wife told her, "At the door stands a beautiful pure white mare with a golden saddle and a golden bridle. And you must go to church, but you must not go in. And as soon as they get done, you must get on the horse and leave as fast as possible so no one would talk to you and catch up to you." She thoroughly agreed. Well, when she got to the church that morning, everyone was looking at her, this beautiful, grand lady that they'd never seen before in this beautiful white silk gown and this beautiful white horse that she'd ridden up on. And true to her promise, as soon as Mass was over, she got up on the horse and she rode as fast as she could, outstripping the wind in front of her and outrunning the wind behind her. And she got home, changed into her rags, and the hen wife had lunch going, and they stirred the pot. And the 2 oldest daughters came home. And the hen wife asked them, "Any news this day from church?" "Oh, there was this beautiful grand lady dressed in the finest silk that we've ever seen, and everyone was looking at her and wondering where she'd come from." Well, they decided they wanted a dress like that for each of them for the next Sunday, and they would have no peace or rest until they got one. So the next Sunday, Fair and Brown, dressed in their beautiful white dresses, went off to church, leaving Trembling at home. And the hen wife comes to her and says, would you be going to church this morning? Aye, I would, but I have naught to wear but these rags. Well, the hen wife clipped another bit from her dress, went into her cloak of darkness, and out she came with this beautiful black satin dress and these beautiful red shoes. And as Trembling got dressed, she could see at the door was this beautiful black mare. The coat was so glossy, she could see her face reflected in the side of his flank. Had a beautiful silver saddle, beautiful silver bridle, and the same instructions. You mayn't go into the church, and as soon as the mass is over, you must get on the horse and come home as fast as possible and not talk to anybody. She thoroughly agreed, and of course, she caused quite the stir. When she got to mass that morning, everyone was busy looking at her, not paying attention to a thing the priest was saying, and they all wondered who this was. True to her promise, as soon as mass was over, she got onto the horse and rode as fast as she could to the house, changed into her old rags, and stirred the pot the hen wife had prepared for her. And of course, the same question when the two older sisters came home. Any news this day from mass? Aye, that grand lady was there again, dressed in even a finer dress than before. And everyone was busy looking at her and not looking at us in our new dresses. And of course, they'd have no peace or rest until they had dresses the same for the next Sunday. Well, the third Sunday, off went Fair and Brown in their beautiful black satin dresses. And there was Trembling, getting the pot ready for the day's lunch, and the hen wife came to her and said, so, would you be going to mass this morning? Aye, I would, but I have naught but this to wear. Well, what would you be wearing this morning? Well, I would like a dress that's red as a rose from the waist down and white as snow from the waist up, and with a cape as green as the hills. And then I'd like a hat with a red and a white and a green feather in it. And I'd like shoes that are red at the tip and white in the middle and green at the back and the heels. Would you now? Said the hen wife. I would. Well, into her cloak of darkness she went, and out she came with this beautiful array in the red and the white and the green. And once Trembling was dressed, the hen wife asked her, now what kind of a horse would you be riding? Oh, well, I'd like a beautiful white mare with blue and gold diamond-shaped spots on it, and a golden bridle and a golden saddle. Would you now? Said the hen wife. Well, she did, and she topped it off with a little bird that sat between the ears of the horse that didn't stop singing the whole time she went to mass and came back. And sure enough, word had gotten out across the land, and she caused quite the stir that morning. No one was paying attention to a single thing going on in the mass. They all wanted to see who she was. And she got on her horse as soon as the mass was over, rode as fast as she could, but the son of the Prince of Amania ran beside the horse, grabbed onto her shoe, and held on until she rode off, and he got the shoe. Well, she got back to the house thinking, oh, the hen wife is going to kill me since I lost that shoe. So she looked really upset, and the hen wife said, what's the matter with you, dear? I lost one of the shoes. Ah, you needn't worry about that. Might be the best thing that ever happened to you. So she changed into her old rags and was working on the lunch. And sure enough, the question put to her two sisters, well, any news this day from church? Aye, the lady came back again, and all the princes in the land, as well as the Prince of Amania, were there, and they were all paying attention to her. And I heard them arguing about who was going to get to court her if they found out who fit that shoe. Prince of Amania is not giving it up, though. Well, sure enough, they spread throughout the land. Prince of Amania holds on to the shoe, going to every house that has women in it, and no matter if they're poor or rich or whatever. And finally, they get to the house with Fair, Brown, and Trembling, and well, the two older sisters locked their kid sister in the closet so that he would just sort of meet them. And of course, one of them, her foot was a little long, so she kind of sliced a little off the toe to make it fit. And the other one, her foot was a little short, so she stuffed some stuff in her stocking. And all it ended up doing was spoiling their feet. And he said, well, is there anyone else in the house? Any other young women? I'm here, said Trembling from the closet. Well, we just have her there to put out the ashes and do the work. Nay, said the Prince of Amania, I must see her. And so out she came from the closet, put on the shoe. Sure enough, it fit. And he says, you are the lady that fits the shoe. And she said, I'll be right back. And she goes to the hen wife's house, cloak of darkness, all involved, comes back, white dress, white horse, silver, gold bridle, gold saddle, and she rides by, and everyone says, that's the lady we saw the first Sunday. And off she goes back to the hen wife's house, comes back again. Black dress, red shoes, black horse, silver bridle, silver saddle. And everyone says, that's the lady we saw the second Sunday. And she goes back to the hen wife's house, and of course comes back in her very beautifully red, white, and green outfit and rides by on the white horse with the gold and blue diamond shaped spots on it. And they said, aye, that's the lady we saw on the third Sunday. Well, sure enough, the Prince of Amania had fallen in love with her, no longer in her older sister. And well, there's a bit more in the story about him duking it out with the other princes, and it took 5 days to fight them all, 9 hours each day. And, needless to say, he won. And so he won the right to court her. They get married. The wedding lasted a year and a day. And they have a grand time. And so this is usually where the story ends as we know it. But in the Celtic version, there's a cowboy, a whale, a silver bullet, and 14 children. And that is just way too much for another story.
Thank you, Adrian. That was fabulous.
Very nice.
Fabulous. I love the growth in confidence. Well, this is what I want this time. And then hold on a second. I'll be right back.
You're right.
Fabulous.
Like I said,
Thank
it's
you.
all about
Right.
Thank you
Very
so much.
beautiful.
Thank you.
All of you, fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
Special evening.
Well,
wanna-
there's more to come, Steve. So you might want to mute yourself and get ready to listen.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank
You're
you.
what a great sales lady. I'm about to go take a second walk for the evening.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll wish you well and hope the stories are running in your head as you walk.
They are, and I want to
Excellent.
thank you. I
And we're
want to thank
recording
you all.
it.
They're very touching, and I want to continue one of these times soon.
And we're recording
Excellent.
it so you can catch the rest of it on our YouTube channel.
Oh,
It'll be posted by tomorrow.
I'm sorry. What's that about the YouTube channel?
Just go to YouTube, search for Storytelling Association of California. You'll find our channel. And
Oh, right.
subscribe. We have all of our prior swaps we've recorded during COVID.
Oh, right.
And we've got all these series. We've got our Stories in Living Color series. We have posted hundreds of hours of content in the last 12 months, thanks to COVID, unthanks to COVID.
Right.
So it's there. Yeah, we have really taken advantage of technology. So
Oh, I see.
And
In
this
other
thing-
words, sure. I can see this on YouTube.
Yes, you can
go
catch.
for a walk. It's 7:54. When you come back, look for that time frame, and bingo, you're ready to go.
Wow, I should probably write down the YouTube thing. 1 second, don't go away.
And it's thanks to Shags that
No, you don't have to write it down. Just search for the Storytelling Association of California.
Well,
Oh, that's all right. Storytelling Association of California,
That's right.
correct.
YouTube,
Yes.
from 7:54
That's
tonight.
that's when you're leaving.
Oh, I want to thank you and thank you. That makes me feel better. That way I'm not going to miss this next hour.
Right. So the whole show will be there and you can start it and stop it whenever you want.
That's right.
Beautiful. And we can all continue, of course.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you all again.
Okay. Have a good walk.
Oh, thank you. And you all have a great night, whatever you're all up to.
Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. I love that.
We love our enthusiastic audience. It's just awesome. Our next teller is Auntie Leanne, and she's representing the Storytellers of San Diego. Auntie Leanne is a professional storyteller, actor, and teaching artist from Storytellers of San Diego and has been performing in the area for more than 25 years. She is so excited to tell The Daughter, an original and slightly twisted fairy tale of what comes after. Auntie Leanne, please tell us a story.
Thank you, Sarah. The kingdom was in crisis. The gold was turning to straw, moldering straw, useless straw in their treasury, on their trading ships, in the depositories of their trading partners. There were guards posted at the king's throne room with instructions not to let anyone in. But the royal guard could never say no to the princess. And so she strode in and made her way to the table where the counselors and the king were glaring and worrying at the map table, marking X's where gold had been reported as vanishing. She strode over. She could remember when she was so little, her nose just peeked over the edge of that table, when she would stand on tiptoe and listen to the counselors giving her father their advice. The king would take her to his favorite thinking turret afterwards, and they would go through each decision piece by piece. For the last 6 or 7 years, he had been taking her advice more and more. And so today she walked right in and pointed definitely here and here. We can pay them with goods. We have some stored nearby. Here and here, we can put them off for quite a while, but here, our negotiations are new. They will not hold off for long. Something must be done. The king raised his hands. Walk with me. He took the princess out to his favorite turret. Your Highness, I have heard rumors about the year that I was born, but as he always did, the king shut her down. His eyes became hooded and he turned a cold back to her as he returned to the throne room without her. For 17 years, whenever she walked into a room, the courtiers or guests, servants or advisors would stop talking about it. But she had put together the story. A monster whose talent for spinning straw into gold had bought the miller's daughter a royal marriage. And then when she managed to find out his true name, he had been so angry. He stomped a pit to hell, and the queen had fallen in and died, and he had disappeared. She was left motherless, raised to rule by a king who did not squander affection casually on the princess, not for her the sympathy over skinned knees or broken hearts. She was the heir. Well, she had heard new rumors of fire and monster on the hills surrounding the city once again, and an ultimatum had been issued. Either give me the princess or the gold will disappear. She had begged the king to let her take new straw and make a new bargain with the monster, and he refused. But the royal guard never could say no to the princess. And so she loaded them with straw and headed out to the hills outside the city. She found a fire, and next to it, a green, monstrous man with heavy brow and sharp teeth and strangely deft fingers capped with pointed, dirty nails. She stepped up and waited for the royal guard to pile the straw in front of him. And when they had stepped back a discreet distance, the gnome whirled around and raised his hands, and a wall of fire surrounded the two of them, blocking out the guard. She thought she could hear a man's voice wailing just outside the fire. No, make no bargain with him. Would it be the king? Surely not. She turned her attention to that green-eyed stare. The same deal, gnome. The same deal indeed. Well, if you call me by my true name, then you can keep the gold. But if I don't get the princess, it will revert to straw when you draw your last breath. She was very confused, but she stuck out her hand and shook the spidery fingers that were put in hers. He sat down and began to thread the straw into the spindle, and the wheel went round and round, and solid gold thread came out the other side. She could barely hear him murmuring magic, but her head was whirring with the wheel. What do you mean? The gold will turn to straw after my death. My mother has been dead for 17 years. The sharp teeth showed. Your mother drew her last breath 17 days ago. But the story. Your mother came with me. She thought of all those years in the cold halls of the castle, motherless. Why didn't she take me with her? The king would not allow it. Why didn't she stay? She was too wild. She was never fit for cold castle halls. She was never fit for that king. She roamed with me, and we played the wild magic until I lost her. Her head continued to spin. If her mother had guessed his name, surely the princess could. And then she looked at that hungry green glance, and she knew. All right, I'll guess your name. Impossible. Is it Tom? No. And he put out his green hand, reaching for her. Is it Bumbershoot? No. And now he reached in earnest. Is it Father? And the ground shook and the wall of fire wavered, and she could hear the king crying on the other side of that fire wall. Yes, yes, from you, that is my true name. Come with me. We can roam the wild hills. And the princess took his outstretched, spidery green hands and said, no. The man who stayed, the man who raised me, he is my father. It is not your true name, but I will get to keep the gold. The gnome dissolved in a pool of tears, and the fire wall fell down. The princess saw the king as she had never seen him, singed hair and scorched skin. And she said, but I'll come back. Perhaps once a month, you could teach me how to spin the straw and tell me stories of my mother. And she caught one hopeful green glance before she turned and walked back with the king to their castle.
Oh, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was amazing. Just fabulous. Wow. Wow. I don't know what to say. It was just incredible. Thank you so much. Such creativity and such brilliance. Ah, lovely. Thank you. Thank you. My goodness, what a night. What a night. Well, our next storyteller is Marian Ferrante, who's representing her very own Delta word weavers. Now, Marian is a retired speech pathologist, and of course, stories fit right into the language work that she did with her students. She updates the SWAP information for us on a regular basis that's included in our Storyline newsletter, and we're very grateful for that. She has been a leader of the Delta Word Weavers SWAP out of Antioch for 37 years. Yay, Marian. If you haven't ever learned who lives next door to Cinderella, she said, today she'll tell you about Cinder Edna, an adaptation of that story written by Ellen Jackson. Oh my goodness, Marian, do tell.
Thank you, Sarah. Once upon a time, there were two girls that lived in the kingdom right next door to one another. Now, these two girls, why, they both had a cruel stepmother and wicked stepsisters that ordered them around all day long to work, 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 work. Well, at the end of the day's work, Cinderella sat. You probably heard of her. She's the one that sat in the cinders and moped about her troubles. That was Cinderella. Next door to her was Cinder Edna, while Cinder Edna whistled while she worked, and she learned how to make 16 kinds of tuna casserole. At the end of her workday, why, she went to the library. She read stories. She read joke books. Oh, she loved the one about the anteater from Afghanistan. And she just cooked, and she learned how to sew. Oh, she was so many things that she did learn. Now, there was one day that in the kingdom was a royal announcement. Hear ye, hear ye. There shall be a royal ball at the king's palace, and all of the ladies of the kingdom are invited. Well, in both of the homes, the stepsisters shrieked with joy. Oh, Cinderella, make us dresses of satin, taffeta, velveteen. Oh, Cinder Edna, attach our eyelashes, paint our nails, fingers, and toes, just the color of a beautiful rose. Cinder Edna and Cinderella, they primmed and prepped their stepsisters all week long. Finally, the sisters were gone to the ball, leaving the mess for them to clean up. Cinderella sat in the cinders. Oh, I wish I had a fairy godmother who would just make these old city clothes just a beautiful gown and I could go to the ball. Well, little did she know, she did have a fairy godmother who just happened to be walking by and heard that request. And before she knew it, bling, oh, she wore a beautiful dress, rhinestones upon the neckline, and bling, bling on her shoes, two beautiful glass slippers. Now, Cinderella, oh, she loved her dress. Fairy godmother, how am I ever gonna get to the ball? Cinderella, I can't believe you can't figure out anything for yourself. Very well. Bling, bling, bling. She had a coach, 6 white horses, and a coachman. Now, don't forget, Cinderella, that the magic spell disappears at midnight. Toodaloo! And Cinderella was off. Meanwhile, Cinder Edna, Why, she didn't believe in fairy godmothers. She had a dress on layaway for just such an occasion, and from her closet, oh, these comfortable loafers will be perfect for dancing. From her piggy bank, she got her coins and walked to the bus stop. Bus driver, tonight I shall be getting off at the Grand Palace. And she rode the bus. Meanwhile, at the palace, Cinderella arrived, and oh, everyone thought she was a princess. The king's son, Randolph, spotted her, oh, thought she was beautiful, came right over to ask her to dance, but she could only just slightly sway. Oh, I might muss my hair. Oh, and if I dance too fast, I'll break my dainty slippers. Now it was Randolph's duty to greet all the guests. And when Cinder Edna arrived, he had to leave Cinderella on the dance floor to greet Cinder Edna. Cinder Edna struck up a conversation. She was already at the punch table. Oh, Prince, what is it like to be a prince? Oh, it's rather fascinating, you know. Now, during the day, I must see the formations of the parades, the formation of the soldiers. I watch the marching, I count the buttons, and at night I sit upon my throne looking wise and brave, and oh, see my best profile. Cinder Edna thought, boring. Just then, Cinder Edna felt a tap on the shoulder. Hey, excuse me, we recycle around here. Oh, ignore my brother, my younger brother, while he lives out in the back. He lives in a cottage. He runs a home for orphaned kittens, and he runs the recycling plant for us. Oh, and Cinder Edna handed her cup to Rupert as introduced by his brother. Why, before you knew it, Rupert and Cinder Edna, why, he asked her to dance. They were on the dance floor, dancing the storybook stomp, dancing the cinnamon twist. Oh, they danced and danced and danced, oh, all into the evening. At last, they sat down for refreshments and conversation. They learned about one another. Rupert told her, I love tuna casserole and I love jokes. Well, she told him the one about the anteater from Afghanistan, and he told her the one about the bananas from Barbados. Oh, they learned so much about each other. They were deep in conversation about gum wrappers when bong, bong. Oh my goodness, both of the girls shrieked. Oh my goodness, the fairy godmother says that my magic spell will disappear at midnight. Oh my, Rupert, the buses stopped running at midnight, and both girls were out the door. The young men were running past them, but it was too late. Wait, it was too late. And outside in the dark, the young men, they just ran into each other and fell down on the palace steps. Rupert's glasses fell down and broke on the steps, and he was looking for the glasses, and he came up with a loafer and a glass slipper. Randolph, these must be recycled. Are you kidding? That is the ticket to find our young loves. We've got to find them. We shall go about all the kingdom, having everyone try on the shoes, and we shall find our loves and marry them. Are you kidding? Why, Randolph, that is the most amazing, stupidest idea I ever heard. But Randolph was off to go get his beauty sleep. In the morning, Randolph took that glass slipper all around to every lady in the kingdom, looking and looking, but all the feet were too big, too fat, too long, too wide. Oh, he was just so disappointed he couldn't find his love that fit into that shoe. He finally came to the last house, Cinderella's. Oh, those stepsisters tried on those shoes, but their feet just couldn't fit in any which way. And then he saw someone sitting in the cinders. Miss, would you come try the shoe? Cinderella, with a twinkle in her eyes, came forth and slipped her foot right into that shoe so perfect. Oh, my love, he gave her a hug and scooped her up, and they went off to the palace to make plans. Meanwhile, Rupert was putting his plan into place too. Why, he got out the palace directory. He wrote down every Edna, every address, and he began going with that loafer to every address. But he had one question of each Edna. Only Edna's he would ask. Can you name how many recipes for tuna casserole can you name? Well, the women would name 5, 8, 1, named 9, but none of them knew 16. No. Oh, he was disappointed, but he had a few more names, and he went to Edna, and then he was at Cinder Edna's house. As soon as he got there, the stepsisters tried to grab that loafer, but no, your name is not Edna. Just then, Cinder Edna came in the door. Oh, you are, let's see, you're Ashes Edna? Ashes Edna? No, it's Cinder Edna. Oh, Cinder Edna. How many kinds of tuna casserole? How many recipes do you know? She made 5, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. But she couldn't name 16. He turned and began to walk out the door. But I can name a joke. I can tell you a joke about the kangaroo from Kalamazoo. Oh, he turned, gave her a hug, and scooped her up, and they walked off to the castle to make plans. In 2 weeks' time, there was a double wedding ceremony. And after that, Cinderella, well, they dropped the cinder. Ella and Randolph lived in the palace, reviewing the troops, counting the buttons, and at night she looked at his handsome profile when he sat upon his throne. They dropped the cinder. Edna and Rupert, they lived in a nice new cottage at the back. It had solar heating. They ran a home for orphan kittens and puppies, and she studied waste disposal engineering. They told jokes, they had conversation, and they learned 5 more kinds of tuna casserole. Now, you decide and tell me, who is it that lived happily ever after?
Oh, Marion, good job. Who knew that tuna casserole would make a life? That's just fabulous. Thank you so very much. Well, our next and final storyteller is Beezie Smith, who also represents the Motherlode Storytelling Guild. She became Tuolumne Center's library story lady, and she learned that being a storyteller is about helping stories come to life for children, families, people in need, or whole communities. And she's pursuing a lifelong dream to connect with her ancestral roots, the Wyandot Huron people of the Longhouses, learning their language, ceremonies, and cultural stories. Tonight, Beezie hopes that her story comes to life. If so, she says, you go tell it to someone else. Easy. Tell us a story, please.
So much. I'm using a little cheat sheet. I don't do, oh no, I'm not. I'm not going to use a cheat sheet. I just so real quick, I have a very favorite fairy tale. It is Wee Meg Barnaleg, and many of you that know storytelling well have read the book, The Way of the Storyteller, and it is one of the stories in that book. And that version of the story is quite long. I found a shorter version, but it just didn't speak to me. And so I figured out a way to kind of chop and block and edit. And so I'm going to share that with you. But that happened today. So I hope you'll all bear with me with a little bit of cheat sheet type stuff. You okay with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So, oh, I got to turn my little light on so I can not only see my shadowy face, but also see the cheat sheet. There once lived a rich farmer and his wife. They were good and kind people. They had one child, Wee Meg Barnaleg, they called her, and never was one more spoiled than she. Meg was more rotten than all of the rotten apples in the barrel. Meg was finicky too. I won't eat porridge, I'll just toss it out. I only want sweet cakes and roasted chicken. While some mothers would say, you'll eat what I give you, but not Meg's mom. Instead, she pandered and indulged her. And as for clothes, Meg could never keep herself neat and clean. It was a new dress in the morning, a new dress in the afternoon, and a new dress in the evening. And all around her were piles of crumply, dirty, tattered clothes. The neighbors would see the lights on late at night, knowing that Meg's mother was working hard. When you have a child as bratty as that one, you pay for it in the middle of the night. Whenever they went visiting the neighbors, the neighbors would holler, here comes Meg, here she comes. Hide the china, hide the cat, and pray to all the saints that they will protect us. Once inside, Meg bounced right past her mum and plopped herself in the most comfortable chair. Then she cast her eye about to see what she could see. Look, Mum, look at that. They swept the dust into the corner. The curtains are awfully shabby, and this pitcher is broken. The handle is broken. But worst of all, Meg was cruel to animals. She'd pull the feathers right out of the rooster's tail. She would pet the cat, and then she would pluck its whiskers from its chin. One day in midsummer, Meg had a fresh currant bun. Out in the yard she went, where the guard dog was all chained up. She broke off a piece of that sweet bun, as if to give it to the pooch, but just as he was ready to take a tiny bite, she jerked her hand back, and his teeth chomped on nothing at all. She did it again, laughing and giggling as she did. And when the dog bit down, oh, she howled with laughter. But the poor dog, oh, he was whimpering away. Now, the third time she did this, the dog's chain broke, and he lunged for that bun, and soon there was a dusty whirlwind of screaming girl and barking dog, such a hurly-burly. The whole village came running. Some said, shoot the dog, he bit the child. No, cried one woman, he's a good dog. If you're going to shoot someone, shoot that naughty girl. Well, when Meg heard that, she jumped up in a huff and stormed off to the farm fields where fresh hay was being mowed. And there she found the workmen's lunch pails, and she picked through them, taking all the things that she liked and tossing everything else on the ground. And then she found a piece of shade where she could take a nice nap. When she woke up, the sun had already gone down. She heard voices, tiny ones. She peered through the grass, and there she saw 50 or more wee little men no taller than her knees, all with tiny wings and dressed in green. Oh, just look what a mess she made for our dancing ring, said one of the fairy men. And all this food gone to waste, said another. Oh, if we could get our hands on that wee Meg Barnaleg, we could teach her a thing or two, said another. Now, most people would be quiet and give a listen, but not Meg. She jumped right in and bolted straight towards that circle. "Well, here I am," she said, "and what are you going to do about it?" Suddenly, there was a strange silence. The ferrymen quietly formed a circle all around her. Then, joining their hands together, they began to sing. "Men, men in a fairy ring, fairies dance and fairies sing. Now we'll take her down below. Round and round and round we go. Round and round and round we go. Hey!" And in that moment, Meg could ne'er speak nor move. All at once, the ferryman brought out a lump of oak wood, and one breathed on it, and soon the thing began to shape into the shape of Meg, changing it was. Then it stretched itself out, and it lay on the ground, looking just like her when she was asleep. "When they search for you," said one of the ferrymen, "this is who they will find, a changeling child." And with the next beat of her heart, she was below the ground in the shimmering light of the fairy raft. Now one ferryman grabbed her by her ear and dragged her into a great hall. "This is where we fairy folk dance, but look at our floor. All about were crusts of bread, slimy cabbage, moldy porridge, and spilt milk. This is all the food that you have tossed and wasted since you were a babe." He thrust a broom and a dustpan right into her hand, but she stomped her foot and hollered, "No, I won't do that." Now the fairies gathered all around, and with their wands they willed her to do their bidding. And even though she hollered and screamed, she still swept and scooped up the mess. And when she was done, she shouted, "Well, now I'm hungry. Bring me some food." "Here's something," said one of the fairy women, and she handed Meg a bowl of her leavings. "Eat all this first, no wasting food in fairyland." And so, driven by hunger, Meg ate up all of her own stale and crusty food. Then an old fairy woman grabbed her hand and took her to another room, one that was piled high with crumpled, dirty, tattered clothes. "You must wash, hang, iron, mend, and fold all of these clothes before you get a bit of fresh food." Meg started to scream and spit out ugly words when all at once she felt a seed fly right out of her mouth. "Tut, tut," said the old fairy woman. "You best watch those ugly words, for soon you will be cleaning up them as well." Meg closed her jaw tight and did not say a word, and in a few days the laundry was all done, though her hands and knees were sore. "I want to go home to my precious mother and father," Meg wailed. "Precious," said the old fairy. "Precious? No, you've never treated them as you thought that. I hear they've been having quite a rest since you've been gone, and as for the neighbors, well, they've settled into enjoying life for a change." And in that moment, for the very first time, Meg felt lonely for her parents and wondered if she would ever see them again. Now an old fairyman waggled a finger and said, follow me to the garden." But it was an ugly sight. There were stickery bushes and thick weeds running wild, no pretty flowers or soft beauty. "These weeds came from your own mouth. All the unkind, cruel things you have ever said planted themselves right here in fairyland. No beauty can grow in the midst of such harsh words." This time, Meg did not speak a word. Instead, she got right down on her hands and knees, and she began to pull up all those weeds one at a time. Her hands, they were like two red, lumpy stumps, her knees scratched and bleeding. But in the end, Meg said, "I'm sorry for saying such ugly things. Maybe now the flowers will grow and be pretty." And for the first time, she got up to skip and dance and twirl all around. Well, if ever there's anything that the fairies love, it is dancing. They all clapped and smiled. Then the king of the fairies spoke. Tonight, we go up to the green earth to dance beneath the bright moon. Perhaps you'd like to join us? And so it was that Meg found herself back on the land of her own home. Ah, she could smell the fresh mowed hay and the roses in bloom. The fairy pipes and fiddles began to sing, and all the fairy folk danced all about in that bright moon, Meg joining right in with them. And that is when she remembered something that her grandmother had told her. If you're ever caught by the fairies, find a 4-leaf shamrock, hold it high over your head, and make a wish. The fairy folk are honor bound to give you that wish. And so the music played and Meg danced, bending low to closely look at the shamrocks, when all at once she spied one with 4 leaves. She swooped down, picked it, and held it up high over her head. Oh, I wish to be back home. And with her next breath, she felt a soft hand stroke her forehead. She opened her eyes to see her own sweet mother leaning over her. Oh, Mother, I'm so sorry I teased that dog. It was all my fault. I hope they didn't hurt him. Her mother let out a squeal and clutched her heart. Glory be, our Meg is back. It's been a year and a day, and now she is back. Such rejoicing. And from that day on, Meg was kind and considerate, helpful and generous to all, even roosters. And if you go back to Loch Erin today and you meet a young person, someone who is kind and caring, someone is sure to tell you this: that child, the one who is so kind, is the great-great-great-great-grandchild of wee Meg Barnaleg. You see, her fairy tale lives on, and now all of you have heard it. And I hope that you will now go and tell it. Thank you.
Oh, Beezy, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So wonderful that there are ways to redeem ourselves if we only can find them. Well, it's been quite a night. I'm just thrilled. Shags, can we bring everybody back, please? The tellers back. And we have, I think we're over a few minutes, but I think we're fine. If I'll ask each of you if you have something you want to share with us that's coming up. So let's see. Ida, is there anything that you've got coming up as Shags puts you all in the screen?
Well, they can do their own view up in the corner. I've removed the spotlight so they can go from speaker view to gallery view.
Okay, so we're going to go from.
I can't control their view. They can.
Okay, so let's find Ida and see if she has anything to share with us about what she's up to, what's coming up for her. Ida?
Just enjoying Marion's story time with Delta Word Weavers, and Liz's and Sally's story time with Contra Costa Tail Spinners.
And Liz, tell us about the next date for the story tail spinners. You're muted.
Sorry. Our next Tail Spinners is on Zoom on June 24th, which is always the 4th Thursday of the month at 7. And you can find it on the SAC website along with all the other wonderful swaps. And we have room. We've been asking people to sign up in advance, and we still got room. So please
contact you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Angela, what's happening with you?
With me?
Yeah. What's coming up for you?
What you mean with the guild?
Or whatever you want to share.
Oh, I don't know. I'm doing something with Assist, their sacred stories. I'm doing that next Sunday, the 20th, Father's Day, which is a combination of storytelling, poetry, and music and dance. So I'm doing that. The Guild is meeting on Saturday, the 19th at 7 o'clock. They were a little bit short of tellers, but Ed probably has all the information about that. I don't right now. I just sort of, you can only do so much, but the Guild is meeting, Sacramento Storytelling Guild. It is the 19th at 7 o'clock.
Super, thank you. Claudia.
And that is also into the Storytelling Association of California website.
I'm going to call on you in just a little bit, Ed, to tell us about next month's genre. But first I want to get Claudia.
Claudia had to slip out to head home before it gets too dark. But when it's my turn, she asked me to share what we're doing with our guild. So
why don't you share for both of you right now?
And the Mother Lode Storytelling Guild, finally, late to the game, is getting ready to have their very first Zoom concert event on Tuesday, July 27th. We're taking a longtime show that we've done called For Adult Ears Only. It's always been a live show. We're taking it to Zoom, and we're excited to have Ruth Halpern as our featured teller. Plus, we'll also have 3 regional tellers, Tim McCaffrey, Cynthia Restivo, and a wonderful woman from Mariposa County, Angela Heiss. That is a ticketed event, and there's information at our website, which is www.motherlodestorytelling.com. We would love to have any and all of you attend, and during the event, we're going to be raffling off one of Ruth's lovely watercolor paintings. So for those of you who are in attendance and who have made a donation, tricky thing, right? So, and that we're very excited about that. So that's a big thing that's coming up for our guild.
So anything else from Claudia specifically, or that's the whole thing?
Right now, that's our focus. Our guild is really focused on getting this show ready. And then we just had our first online open telling. We're a little, like I said, a little late to the game because we were all clunking and stumbling over ourselves in learning the technology, but we've gotten a lot done this year for the guild itself. So we're plugging along.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Adrian.
Yeah, I'm here. I don't necessarily have anything right on the horizon. Our Inland Valley Storytelling Guild has its meetings on the second Tuesday of the month, and you are all welcome to come. So far, we're still doing it by Zoom. I, on a kind of a different level, I'm hopefully going to be back performing with the Raincross Chorale here in Riverside in the fall. We're negotiating how to do that. And personally, for my students, I'm just having a little fun recording a young adult novel, Esperanza Rising, just so that they can have like a little 10-minute story time every night to chunk away at a chapter of a really uplifting story. So that's just kind of what I'm working on at the moment.
Fabulous. Thank you. Thank you. Auntie Leanne.
Yes, I'm going to just put this in the chat. That's our tomorrow night. Tomorrow night is our Scottish Highland Games, Scottish Tales and Legends. We normally would be doing this in the before times with to kick off the area, the Scottish Games, but this year we'll be on Zoom, and we hope that we see all of you there. And I also put in that we have a fourth Wednesday, and every third Thursday we have a performance in conjunction with Twisted Horn Mead Hall. And so you can go to our website, storytellersofsandiego.org, and check out all of our monthly and everything events. And Marilyn McPhee hosts our Story Swap, which is the fourth Wednesday of every month. Also on Zoom at the moment. And I'm
Love
teaching
it.
a class. I'm teaching a class at Miracosta College on Zoom. So if you ever get the desire to take a live streaming class in storytelling, check it out.
Super, super. Thank you. Marion, what's up for you?
Yes, Delta Word Weavers is going to take July off. No Delta Word Weavers during July. In August, our featured teller is Bill Amatnik, and he's telling a story from his latest book, which just came out a month or so ago, Heart of a Man. So these stories is as if you got your guy to just sit down for a time and tell a little bit about what's going on inside. So fabulous stories, but that's the theme though for the evening. And we would like other tellers on August 8th, because we always meet, Delta Word Weavers. I put my email in the chat. You can email me for the date, time, place, second Sunday, 2 o'clock in August, nothing in July. And for all you heads of swap, I'm going to be emailing you, but let me know the status of your swap so that I can publicize it in the next storyline.
Thank you, Marion. Thank you. I also want to remind you, and Shags, if you could put it in the chat, that'd be great, about donations. So if you had a down, Ed. So Ed, would you share with us next month's genre and how you're doing?
Sure. So next month it's always the third Wednesday of the month, and that will be July 21st. And the genre is humorous stories. And then that actually ends the series that we started last August. And so we were happy with the way the different genres we had, and we don't have any new ones at this point. So we're going to repeat starting in August with personal stories, folk tales, then spooky stories, then the break for celebration, sacred inspirational stories in December, tall tales in January, February's romantic type stories. Then it's myths. Then we went, I can't remember, a lot of the historical we had in there, and now the fairy tales. So we had a very successful year. We had good attendance, and we appreciate everyone participating. And all the tellers have been receiving, anywhere from $38 to $50, and a lot of them donated it back to the Jenny Fund, which goes into programs we put on in schools. But we have made a change, and we just had a board meeting, and what we decided to do was pay all the tellers just a flat $50, and SAC members do not have to pay anything to come to the event. And non-SAC members, we're going to charge $5 to attend. And of course, we can take donations, and we still appreciate that because that'll cover some of our expenses. But we're paying the $50 just out of our own budget for everybody. So we appreciate that. And yeah, I had hip replacement surgery. I got home at 4 o'clock on Monday, a couple days ago, and it's going real well. I'm up getting around. I really haven't had any pain. The physical therapist has come in, and they get you. It's amazing. They get you up. I was walking with a walker, as soon as I came off the drug haze, and with a physical therapist, and I was walking immediately in the hospital, and then they said, "Okay, well, then you can go home," which was the goal. And my beloved stepson, Jason, has moved in with me for the week, and he's a contractor, and he's doing all kinds of work around the house, making sure my bed's all set up. And, he's a great kid. So it's nice spending that whole week with him. And then my good traveling buddy is going to come down next Sunday and stay with me for a while just to hang out. And then I'll be up, and you'll next see me on Dancing with the Stars.
On
Yes.
what?
Dancing with the Stars.
Oh, yes.
That's my next goal.
We're looking forward to that, Ed, and we're so glad you're doing so well. That's just awesome.
Yes, good.
Okay,
and I appreciate Sarah taking this over and doing such a great job of emceeing. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you. And by the way, I think you all know that this was Ed's brainchild, having genre stories, and Ed has been organizing it and doing it for a year. And it's just been really fun to see all the range of stories that we hear, especially from all the swaps who are part of our group and often new tellers. So that's been just fabulous. So
And
Shag,
one more thing, you will get a flyer soon about the next genre, and all your story swap leaders you can get nominated like you did for this one, for any of them, the humorist, as we keep going on, you can just get nominated for future ones also.
right, and all that will be on the website. And Shags has put in the chat that he will be sending out a message to all of us who are here tonight with a request for donations, if that's appropriate for you. And you can also just go to the SAC website, and you scroll down on the home page, there's a donate button. Well, my friends, this has been quite an evening. I just thank you so much for all the people who were here and the amazing stories from our 7 tellers. It was just lovely. So I'm thrilled to have been able to be here tonight with you all. So thank you. Have a lovely rest of your evening, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.